explosions, the vibe, the grittiness, the realism. This is Battlefield.
All right, everybody, welcome back to another Battlefield video. So I didn't intend on doing another video on this Season 1 update, but the last one resonated with a lot of people, surprisingly, because people are starting to realize they've been sold something that is clearly devoid of that Battlefield DNA. That being said, this Season 1 update is very interesting because it's now DICE's second attempt at a Battle Royale mode. Their first attempt wasn't too well received because it dropped fairly late into Battlefield 5's development, and it was set in the World War II era, which really limited the scale of the sandbox. So DICE have decided to capitalize on that now in Battlefield 6, and it plays exactly how you'd expect. This is a Battle Royale mode after all, and if you've been paying attention to the style of this game, it's fairly obvious DICE are heavily influenced by that Modern Warfare COD formula of fast-paced linear run and gun gameplay, leaving many of us long-time fans confused with what DICE are trying to build here, especially considering most of the maps in the multiplayer are claustrophobic, tiny-ass spaces, entirely divorced from that traditional open space combat and amazing sceneries that the previous games were well known for. So right off the bat, you can clearly tell it's pulling many elements from Warzone, from loot boxes to padding yourself with armor or the in-game challenges, which can reward you with unique supplies. The most interesting difference is the death ring itself, which encircles the map. In Warzone, it's a giant gas cloud. In BF6, it's a giant flaming firewall consuming the entire map, and it definitely looks a lot scarier and produces some really epic encounters. And you'd think this game mode would be a home run for DICE. Battlefield has always been about large open play spaces, hence the name Battlefield, except here the experience isn't as fresh as Warzone. The Frostbite engine has been long associated with buggy and laggy experiences, and that's really what puts me off. There's nothing more irritating than walking 10 steps ahead only to be rubber banded back into the building you were trying to leave. And this is again where that COD engine performs significantly better. And I understand people hate the microtransactions and the underwhelming battle pass system. It can be off-putting. I won't be focusing on that too much because I personally don't grind battle passes. I hate that shit. I'll be focusing more on the gameplay, the impact this has on the rest of the game, and the general design of the map itself and what the developers need to do to get Battlefield into an enjoyable state. So this Battle Royale takes place in Fort Lyndon, which is a massive fictional US military testing facility codenamed Redsec, or Redacted Sector, set in a restricted zone in Southern California. Think Santa Monica beaches, oil refineries, black site bunkers, and a golf course all stitched together by 6-lane freeways and a river that feeds the coastal delta. There is a bit of lore and context to help bring the mode to life, which is interesting. Set in 2028, Fort Lyndon was a top-secret DoD site researching the toxic nano compound NXC during a live-fire exercise. A rogue PMC called Vanta Black overran it, forcing evacuation and unleashing merc squads for 30-minute containment ops. Each Redsec match ends with the Circle of Death, an instant kill firewall sterilizing the zone. So this is apparently Battlefield's largest map ever. It's 50% bigger than 2042's Kaleidoscope, and honestly it feels way bigger than that. Frostbite renders about 20 plus highly detailed locations spanning coastal strips, urban cores, industrial belts, military bunkers, and open badlands with a range of different biomes for 100-player quads or duos. In terms of the art style, it's going for this washed out military realism with dusty beiges, deep browns, and greys beneath a green coat of grass around areas like the golf course, with most of the map surrounded by lush green vegetation like palms and trees under a bright clear blue summer sky. Evokes a 360 era shooter feeling like Modern Warfare 2, prioritizing visibility and vibrancy in the process. Practical but bland versus Fortnite's pop or Warzone's grit. In terms of the level design, there's finally space to breathe, which is really refreshing. Cover isn't trashed all over the map, and this wide open space works great with the game's mechanics. Destruction evolves the environment organically, turning points of interest into rubble forts. Varied biomes, you've got close quarters combat urban spaces versus sniper friendly fields, and now vehicles have more agency on the field, which I thought was all great, but this is all exclusive to one game mode, and the core multiplayer experience is, as we know, devoid of this much needed space. I already spoke about this at length. Maps are just way too small, and I have no idea why we can't just take some of these areas in Fort Lyndon and put them in the base game, because some of these environments here are very strong. I can clearly see they've spent a lot of time in these spaces. You have 5 very interesting biomes with several unique play spaces, and you could combine those to make several big maps for Rush or Conquest. So I had a look on the server browser and I was surprised to see that this has already been done. They've only done 2 maps so far. You've got Golf Course and Defense Nexus, and Fort Lyndon, which is just the full Battle Royale map. But Golf Course and Defense Nexus are genuinely very good experiences. I must have put about 7 rounds of Golf Course consecutively because it's just so much closer to that traditional Battlefield experience in terms of the freedom to move and space to breathe. It's definitely a lot of fun. There's no kill boundaries interfering with the game. There's space between objectives, and as a result, this isolates squads into holdouts around capture points and fosters a culture of teamwork, so you're holding down certain objectives. And you can see how huge this map is. It's basically 4 locations in one map. You've got Golf Course, which is a massive villa. With a golf course, it basically turns into a massive stronghold. Vista Hills has hillside mansions, rooftop helipads, and destructible balconies and houses. Crash Site has a massive C-130 wreckage buried into the hillside mansions, and Ground Zero straight up looks like a massive earthquake tore through a series of houses along the main road. And the map is so big it penalizes you for running around alone. You can't run out in the open with no cover or you'll get shot. And because of this open space, vehicles again now have more agency on the field. You need transport to get from one objective to the next, which requires teamwork. But this is what we want. This is Battlefield again. Wide open spaces, open fields, vehicles now have purpose. It's absolutely important that you get these into the base game. And there's still so much more that you could extract from this one Battle Royale map. I really want to see Downtown and the Boutique District. This would play amazing in Rush and Conquest. Downtown offers 8 to 12 story skyscrapers, every floor enterable, and you can completely destroy high-rise buildings. And maybe do something with the river for boat combat. You could offer a more linear style map with the marina to the lighthouse for rush game modes. These are all very interesting areas, offering a massive focus on boat combat. Again, we still haven't seen any attack boats in this game, so you need to deliver on this. Again, there's so much you could do with the map itself. You could do something with red line storage, radar site and treatment plant, or chemical storage, combat training, and Area 22B. It's all up to you how you and your designers integrate game modes into the map. But all of these elements need to be in the base game. I shouldn't have to access a server browser and join some private unranked lobby. It really needs to be in the base game's multiplayer for Rush and Conquest. Again, there's freedom to move, there's finally space to breathe. These locations around the map aren't overly decorated with cover like they are in the base game, and it's a refreshing change in scenery compared to those claustrophobic, COD-like environments forced in the multiplayer, which again isn't Battlefield. You can't just keep making linear, shitty maps like Blackwell Fields, which is absolutely terrible by the way. It plays almost exactly like Mirak Valley. I can't seem to understand why you keep falling into this mistake. It's like you're trying to imitate Bad Company 2, only it doesn't work here because this game's mechanics are wildly different. If you look at Battlefield 4, map style is dramatically different. Everything's spaced out and open, and that's to accommodate for these modern mechanics and the influx of more players on screen. So it's not very complicated, but it's a sure sign this team doesn't truly understand what they're doing at the moment, especially when you're making mistakes like blatantly using kill boundaries to force players where you want them to go with a fucking 4-second kill timer. It's very strange what you've done here. When you've proved with Redsec that this game is capable of providing the biggest Battlefield experience we've ever seen, but the developers' limited capacity are clearly holding the game back. So going forward, you need to release bigger maps. That is essential to the Battlefield experience. So the launch of Redsec has been met with widespread criticism, and that's reflected in the game's mostly negative review rating on Steam. Feedback from players has been clear and overwhelmingly negative, with many voicing that Redsec was an addition nobody asked for. In fact, the only people I remember pushing hard for this were those irritating streamers. And this is all a shame. I do think this update is being unfairly criticized and used as a target to vent about the game. It is a Battle Royale mode. That's what kind of experience you're getting. It's obvious to me that the core frustration is with the developers' Call of Duty obsession, which has had a massive impact on the design of the game itself. Again, really pathetic small COD maps and a hellbent focus on diversity and inclusion, with female producers further taking the piss with stupid comments, and the other persistent and escalating monetization problem within the game. Many players had already expressed concern about the increasing prevalence of microtransactions and paid content, and the release of Redsec has all but confirmed these fears. That sense of frustration and disappointment within the community is clear as day, as the continued push for monetization is intrusive and unwelcome. As a result, you're losing even more players on Steam. There is a rapid decline in player count. If you already own Battlefield 6, you probably automatically downloaded this 50+ gig update already. Redsec is a free Battle Royale themed add-on for Battlefield 6, and notably, it doesn't require you to purchase the core game. Keep in mind, the base game was about 70 to 90 quid depending on what version of the game you got, which in my opinion was a half-baked, half-assed multiplayer and campaign. And now they've released this free-to-play Battle Royale mode to essentially have their cake and eat it too, because free-to-play means feed the player base microtransactions which they pay for. And ultimately, the game ends up looking like a casino with adverts for the Battle Pass, transforming the game into what many perceive as a free-to-play experience overloaded with advertisements and aggressive upselling. The game was basically free from all this mess prior to the update, but Redsec now features expensive skin packs and premium cosmetics, which has only heightened frustrations. And I'm going to be honest here, these cosmetics are absolutely annoying to look at. They're boring, uninspiring, and lazy. It's pretty much a diluted rerun of that military fashion show from 2042, then a proper military outfit, leaving players again questioning what the hell the developers intended and why anyone would be interested in buying this. Again, players want realism and the freedom to customize their operator, but we've seemed to regress in terms of player choice. You are now forcing players to play as a female for most of the engineer and support operators on all factions, particularly with NATO. And you've taken away that detailed customization you had in BF5, which would have worked really well in this game. I know why you've done that, and that's because you wanted to create identifiable player outlines, and that's fine, but you can still have all that whilst providing some customizable options and the ability to change gender. It's like a rerun of that terrible specialist system from 2042, but you've covered all the operators' faces last minute because you know people hate this shit. You can literally see that the character's face clipping through the fucking mask, so that's 100% what you've done here.
It's not a tumor. It's not a tumor at all.
I think World War III did customization really well. You get full player customization, and this game literally plays more like a Battlefield game than Battlefield currently does, and that's based on the maps alone. So something's really wrong with DICE here, because the core gameplay experience is just that bad. And what's more annoying is when you're trying to start the game up, the developers are hell-bent on forcing you to watch these in-game cutscenes, and the game engine just isn't prepared to render any of it, which is another completely separate issue with this game. The Frostbite engine just isn't designed to handle all this detail. All these high poly photo scanned assets, and frame rate is just hit hard depending on what kind of setup you have and what graphics settings you're running. Again, maps are overly cluttered with these high poly objects covered all over the map, when this was never a thing in past Battlefield games. Open space, clear sightlines, and less visual noise was always obvious with Battlefield, but it's now trying to be COD, and performance is hit hard as a result. It's terrible across the board in this game for the average player who probably doesn't have a high-end PC, and what you get is a buggy, glitchy, messy experience with a ton of performance issues. And it's as if the developers didn't stress test this game before release, because Battlefield Labs was exclusively a PC play first experience, all playing on fucking high-end PCs. So the Battle Pass is now filled with these cosmetic items, which is particularly disappointing, with most editions being forgettable and failing to even justify the cost. The premium skin packs have faced heavy criticism, with many feeling that the Battle Pass is left with uninspired, less desirable cosmetics. While some may find enjoyment in the associated challenges, opinions are divided. But the most prominent criticism from the community is that all Battle Pass challenges are directly tied to the Battle Royale game mode. So for some people who want to progress through the Battle Pass, they have to participate in Redsec. That's mandatory. And this highlights other issues because the average Battlefield player might not be interested in this game mode. Players prefer that traditional Conquest or Rush game mode, which delivers large-scale warfare and That's another issue with this game, because you've got way too many game modes, which you force the player into with challenges. So you split the player base even further. This has been a thing in Battlefield in the past. You had challenges in BF3 and BF4 which required you to grind certain game modes. And ultimately, once they've completed those challenges, they all migrate back to the core game mode itself, Russian Conquest. I have no idea why this is a point of contention within the community. Again, I think they're just venting frustrations at this point. Unlike traditional Battlefield modes that focus on large-scale strategic warfare, the Battle Royale format divides players into 25 teams of 4 or 50 teams of 2. Currently, there is no solo queue, and to be honest, this mode plays well in a squad. You do not want to be thrown in this 100-player free-for-all with open spaces, reducing the experience to a glorified deathmatch, because it's already a really difficult game mode. Teamwork is essential here. It took me about 7 tries to actually get my first win, and that's because the most reliable playstyle in this game is to run around with an assault rifle or LMG and combine that with a sniper rifle if you can find one, because these play spaces are extremely large, and when you find an enemy combatant, you're both drilling each other to death in the face. And considering there's no headshot multipliers, you can empty an entire mag into a downed target, and 100% of the time the person with the higher ping or high-end PC is going to win. It's also essential that you try and find some kind of equipment like an artillery strike, an airstrike, smoke screen or UAV, because they definitely come in handy when you're stuck in a really bad, difficult situation and you need to make some kind of quick getaway. Again, armor plates have significantly boosted the time to kill in every encounter in this game, so gunfights are now much longer. Challenges will help you with valuable equipment, but again, it all depends on whether or not you complete the challenges, which might be to search and destroy certain objectives within the map, pick up devices to triangulate a signal, find a pair of boxcars to gain access to a locker, or take out electronic systems revealing your location to the rest of the enemy combatants. Keep in mind, wherever you land will dictate the difficulty of your experience. If you're going to land somewhere central to the map like Nexus Defense, chances are you're likely going to face other targets as soon as you drop. So the further away you are, the more of a chance you have to build your arsenal and survive. Vehicles are present in Redsec, but their utility is questionable. For example, helicopters are rendered largely ineffective due to the overwhelming strength of Stinger missiles at the present time. However, that minigun is extremely powerful. I've seen people wipe out entire squads with that thing, and the same can be said about many of the mounted guns on transport vehicles. They will just simply tear you up, and you do not want to be in front of one of those things. That being said, I have been taken out in vehicles very quickly by RPGs when I'm in a vehicle, so it seems like you've reduced vehicle health whilst simultaneously made them stronger. This is again also the first time we've ever had access to boats in the multiplayer. I have just seen a transport boat. There doesn't seem to be any attack boats. I'm not sure if there's any jet skis at the moment, but considering this was a core feature of Battlefield 4, I don't understand how you've dropped the ball with this vehicle. I've already spoken about this in great detail. You need to have boats in the multiplayer. One boat in a Battle Royale mode is just unacceptable. They do provide this extra mode called Gauntlet, which I'm going to be honest isn't too great. Think of it more like a set of missions to help the player familiarize themselves with certain locations in this extremely large map. I don't see many people spending too much time here. You have a bunch of game modes similar to challenges in the Redsec mode itself, including a few additional ones like Cash Grab. Ultimately, this team-based structure combined with the mode's mechanics might be fundamentally at odds with the expectations of many long-term fans. Instead of the strategic large-scale engagements that defined Battlefield, you've given us really small maps in the core multiplayer of the game, and this Battle Royale mode to many could feel like you're just chasing trends or just copying that arcadey playstyle of Warzone. Considering many other elements of this game are directly stolen from COD, it's fucking embarrassing. From campaign difficulty to certain cinematics and plagiarizing well-known COD formulas. And then there's finally the multiplayer maps, which I can't stress this enough, are tiny, constipated, overly decorated spaces, again influenced by COD. You walk onto a narrow street and it's split into several different paths. Buildings are subdivided into several different rooms with multiple levels, each with windows to shoot out from, with vehicles not being able to move through these damn narrow streets, making for some very awkward engagements. And again, stealing mechanics from other games for the sake of innovation, like Rainbow Six Siege with the sledgehammer mechanics and drop shields, or weapons that look directly stolen from the COD universe. After all, they did hire a COD developer, Vince Zampella, and by God, he clearly hasn't gotten over Call of Duty. That being said, I do think this is an okay update. Redsec is absolutely huge, offering several other play spaces that play really well in Conquest, but there's clearly more that needs to be done here. Battlefield 6 basically managed to capitalize on that COD fatigue many people felt, while Call of Duty had become synonymous with relentless marketing, hollow experiences, repetitive gameplay, and ugly-ass player skins. Battlefield 6 offered a refreshing alternative, something that was grounded in reality, in an authentic, gritty Battlefield game. But the developers' focus was clearly on recreating Call of Duty, rather than recapturing the core elements that had made earlier Battlefield titles so beloved. And I'm going to say this very clearly, so I've made myself as easy as possible for you to understand. We want large-scale warfare, open environments, less visual clutter on screen in these maps. There are tons of examples in the best Battlefield games. Battlefield 3, BF4, Bad Company 2. And if you're going to remake maps, don't do anything to adjust the scale or tamper with the map itself. For example, you remade Firestorm from Battlefield 3 and it's smaller with way more visual noise compared to the original, and the whole experience just feels constipated. If you enjoy Battlefield 6 and its gameplay, this Battle Royale mode offers a solid and enjoyable experience. The process of leveling up your classes, finding improved gear, and methodically searching through buildings whilst trying to dodge and evade squads of other players delivers genuine fun, especially when you're playing with your friends, and that destruction system further enhances this and distinguishing Battlefield 6 from its competitors within the genre. Whereas games like Warzone don't offer destruction, Battlefield 6's approach allows for environmental changes without entirely leveling the setting, creating dynamic and evolving play spaces. I will say, I've seen many different iterations of Warzone over the years, and one map features a train, which is really cool. So I think it might be a good idea to release multiple Battle Royale maps in the future, and at least try to get a train in one of them, at least, because that would be awesome. But again, much of the criticism directed at the Battle Royale mode seems to stem from the fact that its map is in many ways more impressive than those found in the core multiplayer maps. For example, those 8 to 12 story tall buildings will collapse in Battle Royale, and that's not present in the base game. And I could go on and on, but I suggest you split Fort Lyndon into several other maps, like you did with Golf Course and Defense Nexus. Shove that into the multiplayer and let the community enjoy them. Despite these differences, it cannot be denied that Battlefield 6 delivers a robust and visually striking free Battle Royale experience, and many of these concerns tend to fade into the background once you are actively engaged in matches, fighting for survival with your squad. I do recommend you try out Golf Course, it is a lot of fun. So whilst the Battle Royale mode stands as a competent and entertaining addition to the game, there is still a ton of work that they need to do with the base game's multiplayer, particularly with the future maps they bring into the game. Alright, that's going to do it for this one, guys. Please like and share the video. This is critical feedback, which ultimately DICE needs to listen to if they want to improve the game, because currently this game just isn't in an acceptable state and it's infuriating much of the player base. That's going to do it for this one, guys. Thanks for watching.